Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming along. Lara and I are going to be talking to you today about the delivering a wellbeing strategy, and also, as part of that, the role of a wellbeing coach. Over the last couple of years, it gets mentioned quite a lot. The kind of annoying phrase of pivot to wellbeing and transitioning from fitness to wellbeing, or health and fitness to wellbeing, but no one's really explained what that looks like, how to deliver it, what's involved in doing that. So obviously, part of what we're going to do today is give you a little bit of background into it, a bit of into the opportunity as well, but then also talk to you about how you can implement it into your facilities or into your own organisations. So my name's McCulloch. I'm the co-owner and director, almost forgot what I did then, the co-owner and director of Your Personal Training, and Your Academy, and a few other organisations that work together. And we have Lara Hall-Bryce, who is a wellbeing strategist, works with Resilient as Fudge, also works with us at Your Wellbeing, and is obviously my partner in crime today as well. So delivering on an authentic wellbeing strategy is going to be the focus of today. And obviously we're going to talk about the kind of components of that as we go. So bit of an introduction into Your Wellbeing. So myself, Glenda River-Allen, James Laurie, who is also my business partner in Your PT and Your Academy as well, and Adam Daniel, the directors and co-owners of Your Wellbeing. So between us, there's over 95 years of experience in health, fitness and wellbeing combined. And we're going to be partnering and working with gyms on delivering that wellbeing strategy, not just to the staff, but also giving you a pathway into delivering that for your members and partners as well. So overview of the talk today. So the case for the wellbeing and commercial opportunity. So obviously, yes, it's great to have a wellbeing strategy, but how do we productize that? How do you generate a revenue, and how can you obviously go beyond the four walls of your facility as well? Common challenges in developing a wellbeing provision. Again, it's quite new to this space. A lot of people are talking about it, but again, there's not much kind of detail behind it. So Lara's going to talk to you about how that happens. The components of it. So again, we talk about holistic well-being. We talk about mental well-being, physical well-being. So again, giving you an overview of that. The emergence of wellbeing coaches, and obviously what that looks like in your facility as well. And also club implementation, because all of this information is wonderful, but how do we then get that into the club? How do we deliver that to the members via the staff? And what are the different mechanisms we can do that with? So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Lara. She's going to take you through the first half.
Thank you very much. So curiously, in the room now, how many of you are operators? Gym operators? Okay, and the rest, I'm assuming, suppliers, or you're just filling the seats. Okay, that's cool. So I know the temperature of the room. So I'm going to talk to you about the importance of having a wellbeing strategy, how to implement it, why it's relevant. But first of all, I want to look at wellness on a whole, because this is important for you guys. So years and years ago, if we think of when gyms first started, in fact, here's a little bit of trivia. Who knows when the first gym was? Operators? Are you experts of your industry? No? And this is a genuine question, because I might be wrong here, because I did a bit of research. So the first ever gym came around as a private gym. It was in, I believe, 1799 in Denmark. Before that, there was gym facilities, but they would be for like soldiers, you know? It was only really in the Renaissance period. There's a bit of talk about male aesthetics, but other than that, it had a purpose. It wasn't for memberships, for community, for well-being on a whole. So the first gym was created, and it was around about 1848, I believe. It was an ex-strongman from a circus. He actually made the very first members gym. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because when I was doing my research, I found it astonishing that actually the model really hasn't changed. All right, so it was all about the equipment, getting the members on board, and trying somehow to keep these members. That's it. But would you agree? We are living in a little bit of a different age now. Right? The world has dramatically changed. So whilst there will be a need for, of course, to always focus on that fitness side, your typical gym infrastructure, there's a whole other area of well-being that we need to focus on, because the world has changed now. So it's no wonder when we look at these stats, this was back in 2022, I'd be interested to see them now, but if we look at the wellbeing industry on a whole, yes, healthy eating and physical activity is a huge part of it, like we would expect, the traditional associations with wellbeing. But look there, the biggest area is personal care and beauty. Now, why do you think that would be? If you think about it, why has that come into this area? Now, this is just my philosophy, but I'm going to take a wild guess. It's got something to do with trends. So we've got the self-care movement, the body positive movement. You know, these things completely change the landscape of what people view well-being to be. And people are doing their own research now. So somebody who maybe wanted to feel a bit healthier would think, I need to join the gym. Now they're not. Now they're thinking, what else can I do? Because they're looking at other areas of well-being. But not everywhere has that one-stop shop, or not everywhere has the correct people in place to be giving that advice. And that's where obviously the industry kind of is a little misaligned at the moment. Let's have a look at some other trends to consider. I was quite impressed with this. So wellness real estate is actually forecasted to have the biggest area of growth, over 17% until 2027. So that could be anything from like a home-based gym facility. My good colleague Glenda told me that Lloyd's Pharmacy have recently just launched like wellbeing centres. You know, we're seeing a rise in that. Wellbeing spaces, meditation spaces, you've probably seen them. So that's a huge trend, but that's also a threat. Because if you're an operator and now all of a sudden people are doing their own thing, like where does that leave you? And then if you consider mental health, we all know that's on the rise. Huge area. What are you doing right now for the resilience, for the mental health, for that kind of the wellbeing strategy for your members and for your teams? There's a gap. Would you agree? Is this all making sense so far? Yeah. Of course, physical activity, healthy eating, traditional wellbeing, it's there, but there's so much more to think about, and these are the trends. So I know that Aaron mentioned, you know, this is a lot about that pivotal wellness strategy, and it's almost been spoken a lot about in your industry, but it's real and it is happening. And that's not even taking into consideration AI, because that will have a huge effect on the industry. So there certainly is a case for wellbeing, some great stats here. This is the old deck, by the way, Aaron. You've not swapped it to the new slides. Never mind, just thought I'd point that out. It's good job I know my stuff. So, interesting report, 7 out of 10 people claim to be in a state of stress, right? A huge report was done, and what I mean by that is stressed to the point that they're not productive. This is what we are seeing. We are living in a stress pandemic. It is huge. But what are we doing? We're just going, join the gym, and hopefully we'll fix that. What about people that are working from home now? You know, I hate to say this word in this room, but COVID wasn't great for this industry, okay? People are now working from home. They're not even coming to the gym anymore because they're at home all day. There's so many things that we're not taking into consideration. So what we're seeing in fitness, you'll probably know this stat right now. There's about a 15% penetration rate for gym memberships. That's been pretty consistent. But do you think it's actually even going to stay at 15% given everything else I've just said? It's just going to get lower and lower and lower unless the industry changes. Loneliness is a huge area. It's on the rise right now. But yet what you're not seeing in a lot of clubs is a provision for that. Again, we're focused on just bringing people in, but not bringing that community. But why do we do that? And it's because we've not got the right people giving out the wellbeing strategy, looking at the holistic side of it, not just the sales and marketing, the fitness side. It's about looking at the detriments of health, determinants of health. If people with qualifications would recognize that. They'd understand where you're based, who is your target audience, what can we do for those people in addition to what we already offer. Is this all making sense? Yeah? Cool. Okay. So, I've covered some of these things. And this is not actually just in the fitness industry, by the way. So I actually work with corporates on their wellbeing strategy. So, give yourself some space. This is new for everybody. But it's very clear that not many people have a vision. When you say a wellbeing strategy, some people pass it to marketing. And that's no joke. I've worked with a corporation who actually had somebody in marketing looking after a wellbeing strategy, which is crazy. They're looking at it as, attracting people in. But this is serious stuff. This is people's health. If you turned up to your doctors intending to see a GP and you saw the receptionist, you'd be pretty pissed off, right? But yet, in the health and fitness industry, we kind of have this, notion where, okay, the PTs will look after the members, and that's as far as the qualifications and the knowledge really goes. And I'm not saying everywhere, but I'm just talking about in general, that's it. But when we look at all the provisions that I just mentioned that people are really requiring now, that's actually direct and affecting the industry, there's nothing there. So we need to have a clear vision. We need to understand that you have to put some money at this. There has to be a budget. Organisations are just doing the nice to haves. Maybe mental health awareness days, menopause awareness days. I see a lot of those right now. And these are all great steps, by the way. But is there a clear strategy? Was there a clear end goal? And who was managing it? And what was the purpose of that? Was it working towards an end goal for not only your members, but also for your team? Because it has to start with you as well, doesn't it? If your workforce isn't looking after their well-being, we've not got a chance in hell that they're going to look after the customers, the community. So, what does a strategy need? Well, first of all, we need someone to run the show, don't we? Okay, we have to have that leader. And to me, it's a wellbeing coach. It has to be somebody with the right credentials, with the right qualifications, not just your personal training or nutrition degree, or has got experience in the wellness industry. It needs to be somebody with experience, but the right qualifications, that can implement a wellbeing strategy safely and ethically. That can look at all the different areas like mental health, for example, but also know where you're acting out of your proficiency. Where actually you can make a referral to maybe a third party to liaise with your organisation to give that added value. That can look at it on a whole, take it seriously, because it is serious. Because if we're not taking it seriously, going back to that 15% rate, how do you think that's going to look? Do you think it's going to look good? Are we awake? Am I making sense? Yeah? Okay, so it has to be inclusive. We have to make sure we're considering everybody. I think I've covered most of these. But you get the idea. The main one is we have to have the right people doing it. We have to stop looking at this as a nice to have, stop being this nice, pivotal wellness word that we talk about, and actually start putting our money where our mouth is and going, what's actually my game plan here? Who am I going to have representing this strategy? So it has to get on the agenda. Is it on all of your agendas? Have you actually got a date for it? Have you got a clear wellbeing strategy for the rest of this year? Is it something you're considering for next year? Because it's one of those things that right now, unless you put that action into place, it just isn't going to happen. And as I mentioned before, the culture has to start with the employees first. This has to be a clear vision that actually everybody knows about. If you were to interview your teams, do they actually know what your clubs represent? What are your core wellbeing values? What are the pillars that you're focusing on? Because if they don't know, the members definitely don't know. So it takes time and it takes work. An evidence-based vision. Again, this comes down to having the right qualifications. When you're studying like this, and I don't know if there are any wellbeing professionals in the room, but it's a lot of work. There's a lot of models out there. It takes time, but with the right knowledge, you get the results. And it becomes easy, but you can't get that without the right provisions. I think I've covered most of these. Okay. So I'm going to pass over to Aaron now. He's going to do a little bit of an introduction as to how your wellbeing works, why it's so relevant, and why it is the perfect solution to everything that I've just spoken about. How actually, if you're working with your wellbeing, they're going to take some of the guesswork out for you, or maybe even help your people become qualified enough to be able to make the changes themselves. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before you go in?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah. Did you know when the first membership gym was?
You told me this morning.
Yeah. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, so as we can kind of see on there, there is a kind of massive surge in, especially over the last kind of 4 years, there is a heightened level of consciousness about every aspect of our health. You're going into a gym facility now, it's not just for the physical fitness. Obviously, people are going in for mental health. I had somebody describe it yesterday as more being like Disneyland for adults, because we're going in there for all sorts of things. We're going in for escapism. We're going in because we know we're going to feel better when we come out the other side. It's not just about going in there for a run or kind of lifting weights or anything else like that. So we as an industry have a great opportunity, and undoubtedly we are going to be the first that will, and I don't like to use the word pivot, but we are going to be the first people, and as gym owners, operators, partners of gym facilities, we are going to be the ones that are going to have to drive that, because 9 times out of 10, we are the first industry to take these things on. There is a lot more data-driven insights, which kind of highlight consumer preference changes. So anything from obviously stress management, people have different thoughts on what well-being is, for example. So what it means to me might mean something completely different to Lara, Scott, Daz, anybody else. We do have a playbook that we've put together as well, which came out, James, was that maybe 3 or 4 months ago? So there is an email address at the end of this, so if anybody wants a copy of that, you can contact us on the email address and we'll send it out to you. There will be some data insights, some research in there, and some quotes from our friend and business partner, Dr. Glenda Rivualam, who put the report together. Surveys conducted above the gym, again, this will kind of go into more detail in the playbook, but there is a desire to be just going into the gym for more than just a workout. We fully believe that if you go into a gym facility or a health club or your local leisure centre, anything to do with your physical, mental, spiritual, whatever aspect of well-being, you should be able to get it pretty much within the 4 walls of that facility. But that depends on who is available in that facility and what sort of coaches and what expertise we've got in there as well. But again, we'll kind of go through the different options of actually how you can put that into place in facilities, or even mention it to the gyms that you go to, and direct them towards something like this. But in essence, we are well placed to own this space. We probably are going to be the ones that are going to own it. We're going to have to lead it. We're going to have to push. We're not going to get much support from the outside as usual. So we are going to have to be very, very self-driven in this, and perhaps even work together and connect with other gym owners and partners to do this across all your facilities. So the role of a wellbeing coach, it goes kind of beyond this. And again, a lot of this is not really just going to be one-to-one. Like some of this people might prefer to do in groups. We obviously know there's a lot more adherence in groups. People keep each other accountable. People do it within their own organizations, but ultimately people are going to have their own preferences, whether it's one-to-one, small groups, large groups. But individualized wellness plans. So again, what does that look like for somebody? Again, what they want versus the next person could be completely different. So you can look at doing wellness or care consultations for somebody, and start from the bottom and obviously work your way up. There could also be systemized and structured plans for people, whether again, that's kind of one-to-one or in a group. Behavioral change support. Again, behavior change gets mentioned a lot, especially when it comes to nutrition. I think that's probably the most common place that we hear that we have to change those behaviors, and kind of get those steps in place to make sure that we're keeping ourselves accountable. Mental well-being strategies. Where do we start with those? There's at least 101 that we can probably list down between us, and obviously it goes beyond everything else. There is a very, very large spectrum. Collaborating with fitness trainers, so fitness instructors, personal trainers. Again, there is a physical and mental side. It doesn't mean that necessarily personal trainers are going to have the correct qualifications or the experience or the expertise to be able to deliver on both fronts. So working together with PTs, again, allied health partnerships and other professionals, whether they are NHS linked, private, local, someone that is offering national programs, depending on obviously the size of your organization. There is stuff out there, but again, you're going to have to be the ones that drive that and search those out, and start collaborating with others. So a few different implementation options. So the first one is training existing staff. So obviously taking a bit of a cross-training approach. So there's pros and cons to every single way of doing this. So ultimately you want to be able to choose the one that is the best for your organization, is going to get you the best result. But when it comes to training existing staff, obviously education and getting the right certifications is going to be quite key to this. Actually, it's pivotal. You can probably Google wellbeing courses online. There's going to be 2 hours for 15 quid. There's going to be 4 days, 6 days, 7 days. Does anyone really know what the differences are with all of these? Like we're at an information deficit with that kind of stuff, aren't we? It's a bit of a new space. Some people are going to be telling us that they've been doing it for 25 years, but they could be doing it terribly for 25 years, and we have absolutely no idea. So going with people that you trust, obviously looking at and doing your research. Who are the awarding organizations? Who are they accredited by? Is there a regulatory body. I believe there's 2 for wellbeing in terms of regulatory bodies.
3.
That's not a huge amount. Again, some of them have not been around for very long either, neither of which I knew existed 7 months ago. And again, I've been involved in the industry for the last 16 years, and the fact that I'd never heard of them and I try to keep myself as well informed as possible just shows that there's obviously a big disconnect for that area. Hiring dedicated wellbeing coaches, again, is another kind of solution, but that's not as cost effective, maybe fairly expensive depending on what people are charging. You might have to give them a full-time salary. They could be self-employed consultants, and they're not cheap most of the time. But this is a specialized area. So whichever one you kind of decide to go with there's going to be benefits and obviously cons to doing both. The third one, and obviously what we provide, is ultimately outsourcing the provision completely. So going with a team of experts that have done their 10,000 hours, which is something that obviously we always get kind of told about if we want to be good or great at anything. We need to be able to obviously have that background, showcase the expertise, but back it up with evidence. And that obviously is what makes us experts, or certainly leaders in that area. In terms of education, like I said, it's very, very important that you get this aspect right. So from a foundational point of view, one of the ones that obviously we use for our foundation is a level 3 RSPH certificate in health coaching. So again, there's a couple of modules on there: principles and concepts of health coaching, wider determinants of health and health equality, theories of behavior change, again, something that comes up quite a bit, principles and motivational techniques, and their application to personalised care. So again, there is a lot of courses, there are a lot of certifications that you can do that give you the theory, but there is, right, how do I apply this practically? Especially with online-only education, that can be quite difficult to interpret. And obviously, if you've got nobody there supporting you that knows how to deliver this, it can make it even more difficult for you as well. And how to conduct a personalised care consultation. Again, that is something that allows you to apply the theory into a practical application, which is exactly what we want to do. It's all well and good us having the knowledge, but how do we then pass that on to not just the members, but maybe our own staff, if we're the only ones that are doing it? There is a wider group, and are we doing it, or are we pushing that information out in a way that it can be shared, that it can be understood, and again, it can be applied and keep themselves accountable to that as well. Where we kind of take things a little bit differently is when we kind of talk about practical application and we talk about productizing services. So again, that's something that tends to be something that is missed out quite a bit. So again, you go to a lot of talks and we talk about mental health, mental well-being. I think there's even books and things like that that say the pivot to well-being, but what does it actually mean? How do we apply it? And like I said at the beginning, this is something that we do ourselves. So James, my business partner I mentioned, who kind of lovely walked in late, of course he did, just to kind of test me a little bit further. We do this within our own organisation. So we very much believe in role modelling. So 15 months ago, we met with Glenda and Emma from We Talk Wellbeing and brought in a provision to our own organisation of how do we bring in better education to get them to understand what it is that well-being is, how to look after their own well-being, put it into practice, and how to share that with their personal trainers that they obviously support and mentor, to a point where those personal trainers can then use it with their own clients to offer them a more well-rounded service and be a lot more informed. And taking staff through this accredited lifestyle program allows them to go through a 10-week program themselves. So they will not only go through the qualification, they will understand everything, they can then deliver this themselves. So they will be able to go through and actually create a program, whether you choose to have your own members of staff do it, whether you bring in a wellbeing coach, or whether you outsource it to your wellbeing. This is the very, very bare bones that we will do. They will all go through both certifications. So they'll get the foundation, the theory, and then they'll have the 10-week accredited lifestyle program. So that is something that, again, could be done on a one-to-one basis, could be done in small groups. I believe it's even been delivered with up to 1,000 people online as well, with some big corporates, which obviously Lara is very experienced in doing. But as you can see there is a huge amount of content, but it will cover every aspect. And the idea is it's supposed to be tangible, and obviously something that people can take away after every week and go and implement those stages rather than being overwhelmed with information on week one and then not doing anything for another 4 weeks and then coming back in and trying something else. It's a nice continuation to kind of keep people moving forward and teach them those habits and give them that kind of education.
Can I just add something on there?
Yes.
That course as well would put the practitioner into the top 3% in terms of qualifications for practical applications. So obviously you've got your nutritional degrees and things like that, but as you know, you then have to have your qualifications to practice, whereas this actually is a practical qualification and there hardly is any available in the UK. Just add that.
And we talk about productizing services like it's done. You have a 10-week program that you can deliver to your members and to your staff and whoever else, whether it's kind of one-to-one or on a group basis. Again, this is just an example of obviously what we deliver. I thought it would be best to kind of show us exactly how we do things, to give you an idea of what it might look like for you, whether you kind of go through an in-house option or you kind of outsource it. We always want to show best practice, and like I said, role modeling is very important to us. So obviously we want to make sure that we're going through this ourselves. So to deliver a world-class service within your facility, again, we deliver this at zero cost to all of our operators. So we very much work on a partnership and we believe in what we're doing. We've had continued success over the last 15 years in different areas. So to get a placement of obviously fully qualified in DBS check coaches is quite important. Again, even if you're doing this with your own staff, making sure that they have the correct qualifications, making sure you need to know where to look, where the regulatory bodies are, how to check the qualifications. To give an idea of what this looks like outside of the sort of well-being space is throughout the years, we will go through and do audits of kind of personal trainers and facilities and things like that. And over the past 15 years, anywhere between 19 and 26% of their personal trainers aren't qualified, which is, you know, you can kind of put the blame wherever you want, but ultimately it comes down to not really understanding what is a correct qualification, what is the right level, do these words actually mean anything, and knowing where to look to go and find out whether these qualifications are actually accredited. We talk about it with physical well-being, but when we're talking about mental well-being, if you've got somebody that is not correctly qualified and not correctly certified, hasn't gone through the right processes, isn't kind of registered or regulated by any form of body, could be extremely dangerous. And ultimately there's certain levels of accountability on that, and they'll look at the coach initially, but then also they'll look at the facility that they're employed or contracted to as well. So you want to make sure that those background checks and obviously qualification checks are there. We provide a full management service, so HR, governance, compliance, including very boring things like IR35 with HMRC. It's a very dull thing, but it's a very important thing to know about. We have dedicated Your Wellbeing managers, so they take over the recruitment, management and development over wellbeing coaches, and is ultimately an account manager for those facilities or those organizations. So they have a single individual that they can go to with absolutely anything, whether it's queries, questions, whether they want to put people through certifications or whether they want to deliver something else that's a little bit more bespoke to their membership. All the practitioner and education, the business support and development is looked after as well. So just getting these people qualified and into the facilities in the first place is a great stepping stone, but that is the baseline that we start from. Just like fitness, mental well-being and physical well-being is an ever-changing landscape. There is stuff that comes out every other week. We think about like how many different diet protocols there is. It's just food, and we're still talking about all those different things. And we had a conversation this morning about fasting, didn't we? So again, like you can be talking about all these different things, which works best, which one's the most efficient, which one can we use widely. There isn't really a single answer that we can actually give. So staying on top of not just trends, but actually what is changing over the different landscapes of fitness and obviously mental well-being as well. And all the branded in club and online marketing for wellbeing practitioners and all their services. Again, doing this in-house is quite a big undertaking, but ultimately you want to make sure that it is effectively marketed. People do know the difference between the different services that are available in your club. And we're not just talking about the in-club side, like Lara mentioned. What would be like 15.1% of obviously the country has got a gym membership or comes to the facility. Could we attract more people to come in just for the non-physical side? Would that attract people in? They've got these services, they've got a place that they can go to. It's just a mental gym and kind of supporting them on any other aspect apart from physical. Then we can introduce them to physical if they want to go down that route. But this is a great way to get more people involved in local communities, especially with independent gym owners. But ultimately, if you can bring more people into your facility, it makes it more profitable, also gets more people in, creates stronger communities, and you'll have a bigger effect on the local community and your gym membership as well. So not just the physical aspect, which most people are still coming in for. Obviously, I go in for the physical aspect, but it is also the only space that I get that is for me. Like, it's my escapism. It's kind of my place where I go to think and definitely not be spoken to, which is why I wear big headphones or put very loud music on at that time as well. But that is my time. And for a lot of people that go in, it is. For other people, it's the social aspect. They want to go in there, they go to classes, they go to Group X. So we've all got different reasons for going in there. Why not create another reason for people to come into the facility? So adding on-site member wellbeing service is obviously going to support member retention, because you're going to be able to support people in other ways that you can't right now. Bringing more people into the gym, keeping people longer, keeping the existing members longer as well, is only going to have a commercial and financial benefit, and obviously be more impactful in the community. It's a market differentiator. Nobody's doing this. They're trying. I think there's a few kind of local authorities that are linking in different departments from NHS and wellbeing aspects and that as well. They are trying it. It's all completely brand new to them. But again, they've not done their 10,000 hours in this side, and obviously bringing both aspects together. It will generate additional revenue. I know it's not always the focus for a lot of people when we're talking about doing good in the community, supporting our members and things like that. But electricity is expensive now, isn't it? So we want to make sure that we're bringing in that additional revenue, and obviously increasing the yield of our members and getting more members in. Having a universal and high standard across your facilities. So again, not everyone finds it easy to kind of maintain that standards if they don't know what's going on. You've got to keep an eye on the ever-changing landscape of fitness and health, and then we've got to look at mental well-being, and then there's other aspects of running a facility. There's probably about 300 different points you have to think about every day as a gym owner or an operator. That's just if you have a single site. So working with an organization like Your Wellbeing, or kind of bringing in a strategist like Lara, will help to give that continuity and that high standard across the board, so you know that nothing is drifting off, nothing is going outside of where it should be, and you're having the impact that you want to have on your members. And we want to create a total wellbeing journey from the clinical aspect all the way to health and fitness, and all the way back again, because people may come into your facility with great resilience, strong mental well-being, come in for the physical side, but then things happen in people's lives. We all have things that go on that change every aspect of our physical and mental well-being. So being able to offer both sides of the coin for everybody and have that spectrum of services and support available is crucially important. And again, making that stand out is going to make, independent gym owners and operators stand out from the big corporate clubs that are just, kind of ticking a well-being box potentially. But also, it's just something that we have to take care of. Like, we do have a bit of an obligation, a bit of a duty to our members and to the community. It's the reason we start these gyms. Like, gyms are designed for people to come in, get fit, healthy, live longer, hopefully. But also, we now have a responsibility to obviously look after them on the mental aspect as well, which is exactly what we're trying to do. So what does this kind of journey look like? So again, when you think about the education side, obviously there's opportunities to do it full time. So you can do a qualification in 4 days. But ultimately, obviously, can we shut the gym for 4 days and put all of our staff into a course and expect everything to be fine? Probably not. So it can be split over. You can do things monthly, but then obviously they're going to have sort of programs and stuff to do outside of that as well. So you start your training in week 1, then in month 2, they'll submit all their assessments, and then obviously attend the assessment day. So that is done in person. There is an aspect that can be done online, but as kind of you'll probably sort of agree with as well, this kind of thing. And we talked about on Friday, didn't we, about resilience and mental well-being. Being together, being part of a group and being in person has a much bigger impact. We certainly noticed the difference when we kind of got our teams together on a regular basis. We are all over the country. So just bringing them together and going through these programs has increased the the sort of communication between teams. They kind of feel better. We notice the difference at the other end. Again, we did a case study for 4 months on putting our own organization through it, but it does have a bigger impact of spending time with people and getting people together on a regular basis. So again, the assessments and everything are better off done face-to-face. Everyone that goes through the initial RSPH qualification will then go through the lifestyle program as well. Again, it's a CPD that's going to help them deliver that program in your facilities as well. And everyone that goes through both qualifications can then start on site. So Lara talked about an agenda and a plan and a start date. Using this model, you can create that for yourselves, knowing how long it's going to take, when you're going to be able to put it in, how you're going to market it, when it's going to begin, and what you're going to be offering. Everything is there. So it's all taken care of. And again, we know very much at the start that it was talked about, but nobody was showing you what this looked like, when it was going to be implemented, how it can be implemented, and what needs to happen. It's all there. It's there for you to obviously look at and take in. But within 3 months, you can have a wellbeing provision in your facilities that you can offer to members. Awesome. So next steps, like I said, anyone that emails the info at Your Wellbeing, will send you over the playbook that we put together. You can also book a consultation with one of our team, become a Your Wellbeing partner if you decide to go down the outsourcing route. Generally, if you've got a team of experts that will work with you at zero cost, definitely worth exploring. And then by working with us from there, we can place the Your Wellbeing practitioners into your facility and watch your retention soar. But thank you very much.